Well, that's our job, is to entertain the audience and move them, and maybe even squirm a little bit, maybe make them uncomfortable.
I've seen a number of roles in whether, I can't remember where now, whether it's Netflix or wherever, that they come up where maybe it's dealing with political characters. They did one, I think, about the VP or whatever a few years ago, and but what I wonder about is, because we live in this polarized world now, where politics is further apart than it's ever been, probably in many ways. But having an actor, whichever side they're on personally versus where they're landing in terms of the character, when you really have a perspective, let's say, that's like, how can that person think that? That's that kind of dichotomy between who the actor is and who the character is. And I wondered how these guys can get into a place where they are so far from where that character is in real life, and yet they're able to find that empathetic space where they understand the psychology, as you will, and learn how to, at least for the sake of the character, embrace who that character is to become them, so that it's not fake.
Yeah.
How does that?
Yeah. Well, look, anytime you see a killer on television or in film, that actor's I hope, is not a murderer in real life.
Right.
We all have had moments where we think things that we wouldn't necessarily do. We've all had moments where we go, man, I wish somebody would just take that person out. But it's a passing thought, and then we move on.
Right.
Because we live in a moral society. Well, some of these people, it doesn't become a passing thought.
Right.
They go, no, I have to do this for whatever reason. And you allow your characters to think the unthinkable sometimes. I tell all my characters, all my actors, don't use logic to figure out why your character is thinking that, because humans are not logical. Right? We're not logical animals. We do things that is illogical all the time.
Right.
We have affairs. We hurt people that we love. We steal. We have nasty thoughts. We're rude to people who we care about. It's not logical.
Right.
But we're humans, and things happen, and we have good days and bad days and terrible thoughts and nasty thoughts, and you allow your character to actually possibly dwell on them and give them a different backstory than you, right? Some people come from violent places. That's what they know, and that's their reality. It wouldn't be for most actors, I hope, but we're usually not playing average people. We're playing somebody who is compelling to watch.
Yeah.
And that's part of our job, is to make our characters compelling, right? We're in the entertainment business. Never forget that. We're not in the reality business. Again, I share that with my actors all the time. Remember that your job is not to be real, because real can be boring. So, you want to watch some delicious guys playing bad guys. Philip Seymour Hoffman played one or two delicious bad guys, I think, in the first Mission Impossible. You can't take your eyes off of the guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't a murderer or a killer, or, he's a Broadway actor, right? There are so many of these delicious bad guys, and I think those are the people that you want to emulate at times. Why? How come we can't take our eyes off of this guy, even though he's being really nasty to one of the characters that we're supposed to care about? Well, that's our job, is to entertain the audience and move them, and maybe even squirm a little bit, maybe make them uncomfortable. Don't think about reality, because reality, especially here in Ontario where we live, we are a boring culture. We're a boring culture. So, one of the first things I tell all of my actors is don't be nice.
Okay.
That's the culture that we live in, is to be
Mhm.
nice and don't ruffle any feathers and keep your thoughts and emotions to yourself and so forth. Yeah, that makes for a very civil society, but it makes for a very boring actor.
Right. I think I remember
Uh,
you saying that to me one of the times we got together.
yeah, makes for a boring actor, makes for a boring character,
Yeah.
right? Um, here, I'll give you a perfect example. When I was cast in Canada, Russia 72, going back, oh my God, I can't even keep track. 15 years ago, maybe, I'm guessing. When I first read the script, it was a 400-page miniseries. The character I was playing was written as a good guy. And he's based on a real person. And I went, in real life, he was sent to jail. Not in 72, but about 20 years later, he was sent to jail. And that tells me something about the actual person. So what's more interesting to watch? A guy who is nice or a guy who was willing to steal from people that he was supposed to be responsible for? I think it's the latter. So when I started to develop the character, I remember showing up on the very first day of shooting in Fredericton, knowing that the producer who took 12 years to get this made and the director who's worked for months prepping for this, that they're expecting me to show up, purple with yellow stripes, and I decide I'm going to do yellow with green polka dots.
Right.
and as soon as I did that first take, they said, cut. And I literally walked the other way because I knew that they were going to have to process that. And I walked away, and the producer, Barry Dunn, was just staring at the monitor. Now, there was nothing on the monitor anymore because they already said cut. So he's processing what he just saw.
Yeah.
And he leans back and he turns to the director and he goes,
Yeah.
I'm not playing him as a nice guy because it's more interesting. Again, I'm not playing reality. I'm going, what's more interesting? What's more compelling for the audience? Yeah. And I went, I'm going to turn him into an anti-hero.
I have, it's so interesting you mentioned that part too, because that's the first time I met you, and the first time I kind of took note, because I was one of the reporters in that group in front of you that was sort of barking out questions.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And I remember actually.
Did you have hair back then?
I did have a little bit.
That's why I didn't recognize you
and everything. Yeah. But I remember watching you do the performance, and I just was loving the charisma that you were kind of injecting into the character. Right. And I thought, oh, this guy's a really charismatic, I hadn't met you yet as yourself, but I was surprised when I watched the film in a good way, because I saw that you were playing this guy who kind of was two sides of a coin.
Yes.
In front of the cameras, he was very charming and kind of high energy, but behind the scenes, he was kind of scheming a little. And I thought, wow, yeah, that was really impressive.
Yeah, I made him into a human. He was both charming and a bully, right? He was both looking after what was best for the team and being manipulative, all at the same time. And I go, that's more interesting. That's more interesting. Yeah. And I didn't know what the producer and the director were going to do, because I went, I think it's better to put him over here. And we shot that for 3 months, and I knew at some point the nastiness was going to hit the fan, and it never did. Yeah. And I think it's because they went, wow, this is a much more compelling character than the way we even saw him. And I think that's our job as an actor, is to bring it to the next level. Take what's on the page, and with our creativity, imagination, and our craft and our intelligence, bring it up a stage or two. Right? That is our job.
Yeah. I have to say, I think I got work because I tuned into that a number of times in our conversations in the past, where, you can just simply say what's on the page, and as long as you're not over the top, you can be considered acting it fine. But if you're going to put some original flavor in it, like you said, I remember that kind of sinking into my head, and there were a couple roles where I went in and it was pretty basic, but if you can put something else into it, something that comes from the character's background that you create, like you said, that those are the things that differentiate from just going in and delivering the line.
Right.
And I was so thankful to hear you kind of hammer on that, because I'm still learning it, but it's great. Great.
Right. And again, go right back to, we're in the entertainment business. We're not in the reality business.
Mm-hmm.
Too many actors go, I got to make this real. There's a very good chance if you make it real, it's going to be boring.
Yeah.
It has to be genuine.
Yeah.
So genuine means that the character is really thinking, really feeling, in the moment, in character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you do that, then it can't be wrong.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you go, how can I make this interesting? Now you're making something that hopefully is compelling. And that's doing our job.